And we are live. It's the Revved Up 906 podcast, a Detroit Pistons podcast, to be exact. And I'm Hudson.
And I'm Ryan.
And before we get into tonight's recap of the Detroit Pistons versus the Cleveland Cavaliers, I want to make sure to remind you guys to watch this week's episode. That if you are watching this on Saturday, it came out earlier today. And if you're watching this on Sunday or future days, this week's episode, we talk about everything that's kind of going wrong with the Pistons right now. And we kind of break it down how we see certain things getting fixed, whether it's coaching staff adjustments, whether it's simply just the energy the Pistons are putting into behind the scenes practice gym or chemistry. We talk about a little bit of everything on why we kind of think the Pistons are struggling right now. And we don't just use the excuse of the Pistons having a young core. We really try to get into the knit and grit details of what's happening with the Pistons right now. Also, make sure to like and subscribe. If you're new to the channel, I hope that you hit that subscribe button because if you want to stay in the know with everything that's going on with the Detroit Pistons, you got to subscribe to Revved Up 906. It all starts with us. So we appreciate you guys for tuning in. Also, earlier today, our newest merch drop came via Grind Clothing Co. Ryan kind of put his designer brain to work and came up with the Protect the Ball merch drop. So we have sweatshirts, t-shirts, and crew necks that say Protect the Ball. It's a quote that I do say a lot. And the Pistons have always struggled with turnovers the last couple of years. So we do talk about protecting the ball a lot. So make sure to rep your favorite Detroit Pistons podcast, Revved Up 906, today by clicking the link in our YouTube bio or in the description below. That link will shoot you right to Grind Clothing Co.'s website, where you can look at the different options to choose from our Protect the Ball merch drop. And if you guys want to kind of get a quick and easy way to look at some of our merch things that we have available, you can follow us on Instagram at Revved.up906. And we are posting all kinds of promotions that are showing all our different merch drops and stuff like that. Also, we post a lot of clips and fun stuff on Instagram. So make sure to go follow us on Instagram. Without further ado, let's get into tonight's recap of the Detroit Pistons versus the Cleveland Cavaliers. Tonight's final score was 110-101 in the Cavs' favor. And this game's kind of interesting because this is the second of a back-to-back game where the Pistons aren't playing losing basketball, but they're haven't quite turned that corner yet. They're playing solid, but still making some mistakes, but mistakes that are easily fixable. You know, in the last 13 games previous to these last couple, it was an energy thing. That's not really something you can coach. That's a player accountability thing. But Ryan, to start off tonight's recap, I kind of want to hear your thoughts on Bojan Bogdanovic's return from injury. You were mentioning it before we hopped on and started recording that it's so nice to have him back on the offensive end.
Yeah, him out there tonight felt like the way our team played last year. It felt like it's been there, it's done that. There is nothing new. It's like the old Pistons from last year, except obviously we're a lot more, I guess you could say a lot younger than last year, but then also a lot more athletic than we were last year at this time. And Bojan just brings a whole different, I guess you could say, swagger to how the Pistons play, because he's one of those guys where it's like, if you're driving in looking for a kick out, he's always the guy to get the ball and take the shot.
Right.
He's just that guy. The offense, no matter who's out there, is always going to look for him immediately upon anything that's stagnant in our offense, or just you want a quick shot out. He's always that guy. Bojan Bogdanovic coming off of an injury in which we hadn't seen him for 5+ weeks. And it's like, what do we even expect out of Bojan? Because like an injury at 34 years old, I know it's just a calf injury, but still a 34-year-old getting injured. It's either you're going down the drain with your career or you're the same player. It's 50-50, always up in the air. Bojan Bogdanovic obviously looks as good as he did last year, if not even better. He looks exactly the way he played last year. In 27 minutes, 22 points, a steal, 2 assists, 2 boards, 5 of 6 at the line, 3 of 9 from 3, 7 of 15 from the field. Now, my one big critique, if there is any critique at all in a first game back for Bojan, is his 3-point shooting, which is kind of weird for me to even critique him there because he's one of the best 3-point shooters in the league, let alone the Pistons. But 3 of 9 from 3 is not going to cut it for him. He missed a couple wide open threes in which he would have normally hit. So it's probably first game back jitters. You're not wanting to re-injure yourself, or you're trying to play it a little bit safer, just protecting his body, because I mean, you go out with a calf injury and then you're out for a long time. You got to get your mind back in basketball and really focus in on how to play out there after injuring something like your calf. So it was probably something more of a mindset, if anything, but he looked fine. He hit those big shots when it mattered the most. Just in that fourth quarter alone, not just him, but others struggled. But it was very nice to see Bojan back out there.
Yeah, and for me, when watching tonight's game, I could tell that he was happy to be back. He played with a certain energy, and maybe it's just he's been gone so long, I kind of forgot how active he was. Just like, I mean, 5 weeks in the basketball world is a long time in a stretch of a season. So, but it was just nice to see him out there. Yeah, the 3-point shooting, it was rough to watch at times, especially going 3 for 10. But I think, like you said, just getting used to the speed of the game again, getting used to those little mechanic things, the timing. But he adds a dynamic to the offense that it's very crucial. And if, we always talk about moving on from Bojan, what would that look like if we traded him away? It would almost have to be a guy very similar in play style to him, because after watching a game like this, putting up a solid 22 points that we've needed the last 5 weeks, it was nice to see that and be like, well, do we want to move on from him? Because what he gives offensively is something that Jaden Ivey can't quite give yet consistently. He definitely helps those cold streaks that we deal with. And Bojan, when he's on the court and he's offensively throughout 4 quarters, kind of making little impacts, making shots at the right time, it keeps games like this against a solid team in the Cavs close, within 9 points. If you take away his 22 points, this easily could have been a loss by 25 points or a tough loss. But when Bojan's on the court with the Pistons, he adds a dynamic to their offense that just gives them winning style basketball.
Yeah, and honestly, there's times where us as Pistons fans during this now 16 game losing streak, 17, right? 16, 17. I don't care. 16, it's a losing 16, streak. Yeah. But earlier on, before Bojan played tonight, we're going like, yeah, we're going to lose this game. Now, me going into this game tonight, knowing Bojan was back, I'm like, okay, we actually have a shot, because we know what Bojan Bogdanovic is going to give to us each and every night out there. And so I really felt like going into this game, we had a shot to win without even putting my head down. And he really, there's a positive to when he's out there. And tonight was one of it, even though we lose by 9, in which a fourth quarter we completely fall apart in. But otherwise, through 3 quarters, we could have won this game alone. It wasn't until the fourth quarter that we really fell apart.
Yeah, and you mentioned the fourth quarter struggles. I mean, the Pistons only scored 19 points in the fourth quarter to the Cleveland Cavaliers 25. It's like, when you look at it, 19 points in a quarter, is that horrible? No, but not ideal. You want to get around that 25, like maybe even a little bit more. And, they scored 30 in the first quarter. So they've proven that they can get into the early 30s in a 12-minute span. It's just, I think it's a lack of bench impact right now. Isaiah Livers, played 14 minutes, gave us nothing. He only took 1 shot. He didn't really get much of an opportunity, but he didn't give us anything. Marvin Bagley, 6 minutes, didn't give us anything. And it's like Asar Thompson, 7 points, Marcus Sasser, 4. It's just like the bench didn't quite give us what we needed in a couple of these quarters. And if the bench shows up a little bit more, I think this game's looking a little bit different, which is kind of funny because the bench scoring struggles aren't a common factor for the Pistons. Typically, we have a solid boost overall offensively from the bench. I think it's just in a streaky pattern right now for the bench. I think they'll turn it around soon.
Yeah, and you look at the guys coming off the bench tonight. Within those names, I'm not complaining that those are the guys that are out there. I will say the way Stanley Amude has played for us this season, I wouldn't have complained if he got minutes tonight. I think he could have been a good factor in us winning this game. But even Alec Burks was dealing with injury, I believe. But even I really think Stanley Amude out there could have given us what Livers was expected to give us from an offensive perspective. Defensively, Livers was fine. But Asar Thompson was probably the biggest negative tonight, if there was a negative, just because of how he played. I mean, you're given 16 minutes. The only reason why he didn't have more is because he had 5 fouls. That can't cut it, dude. You're supposed to be one of the better defenders in the league, let alone on the Pistons alone, and yet you're fouling 5 different times. And then he had some tough, crucial turnovers in that fourth quarter stretch into one of the big reasons why we lose this game. Just that those turnovers late in the fourth quarter, along with the fouls, and then our poor defensive situation and like positioning is what really killed us outside of our bench play. But Bojan Bogdanovic coming off the bench and giving us 22, I'm happy with that.
Yeah.
And our offense, for the starters, they played good. They didn't have any flaws to their games. Now, Jaden Ivey struggled again. But granted, he only took 7 shots. We can't say he had a bad game when he's only scoring 7 points, when he's only taking 7 shots. He didn't have a bad game. He just didn't take many opportunities for his own game. He looked for others. And you can't say, like, Jaden Ivey, you suck. What happened? What's the drop off between last year and this year to the point where you're not scoring 15 points a night? Well, the easy answer is Cade is back. Killian is playing great. We're seeing guys like Asar Thompson step it up. Trying to honestly, Asar Thompson has filled Jaden Ivey's role from last year. But no, there's not, like, out of the production of our team tonight, there's not many complaints outside of our bench.
Yeah, and even to the point of, like, Jaden Ivey not getting many opportunities tonight, the Cavaliers are a guard-heavy team that are also very sound defensively. I mean, Max Strus, Darius Garland, Mitchell. You also got, Moni Bates.
Isaac
Isaac
Okoro is kind of like a guard forward. He's a flip-flop between the two, but he's one of those big factors.
But if Pistons fans are looking at the box score, you can't help but see Jalen Duren's stat line, and we saw him make a solid impact tonight and just be a consistent factor in the rebounding category. And I saw him just be a little bit more active than I feel like he typically is. He's always active. There's just a little oomph in his step tonight. And I like to see that. We saw Jalen Duren give us 17 points, 12 rebounds, 8 of 8 from the field, which is just awesome. 2 blocks and a steal and only 2 turnovers and only 3 fouls. That's awesome for Jalen Duren. I think he's kind of turning a corner in this, like, efficient play. Like, not making many fouls, and he's, like, kind of getting past that, like, early career mistakes, and now he's starting to get that, like, more refined center that every team needs. And I feel like he's starting to turn a corner a little bit. He's playing on another level.
Yeah, when he came into the season, he started off hot, and then he was out from time to time with that right ankle sprain, and that took out any rhythm that he had. But now that he's finally starting to get back into the groove of things, he's starting to play like he did early on, and that's a very big positive. If he can give us 10 plus points and 10 plus rebounds every night, I'm not complaining at all, because, like, the amount of production he gives us from the offensive side of the ball to the defensive side of the ball, it's just crucial. He's always going to be one of those big factors in either we win or we lose. And I know a big factor is always going to be Cade. A big factor as of now is always going to be Bojan or Asar Thompson or even Isaiah Stewart from time to time. But no, I think the biggest factor in us winning games outside of Cade, and you can make the argument that Jalen Duren is the biggest factor in these games because there's moments where Cade is playing outstanding basketball, but yet we're not getting boards at all, or we're not defending these tough shots like the way we should. And then we lose these games because of the play of opposing big men. But when we have Killian, the way he's been defending all season long, we have Asar Thompson, the way he's been defending all season long, or even Jaden Ivey from time to time guarding these guards, and Cade even guarding these guards the way he has been. And that's going great, but their offensive production isn't there. Jalen Duren seems like he's always there to take that up and really be effective on both ends. And so that's always going to be a positive. I think he is the biggest X factor when it comes to winning. But I think having Bojan back is going to be a big, crucial step in that. But my one negative outside of his amazing game tonight is his free throws. He was not good at the line at all. He missed 4 free throws alone in the fourth quarter, which would have pulled the game within 2 points from time to time. And it was like, dude, you're given free throws. Like, they're free for a reason. They're free points, and you can't make them. 106 from the line is not going to cut it. I don't care if you were 100% from the field and you gave us 17 ports, 11 boards, a steal, assist, and 2 blocks. You have to make your free throws. They're there for a reason. It's free points at the end of the day, and he missed 5. He missed 5 free throws. He could have given us 5 more points. Given us 5 more points, we would have been at 106 to 110, lose by 4 rather than lose by 9.
Yeah, and it was in, like you said, such a crucial moment. I mean, those are the times when free throws and those opportunities is what makes or breaks a win or a loss. So it's, yeah, that definitely hurts. But to the point of Jalen's like overall just strong play outside of the free throw line, if there's a night for him to show up and have a big night, it's definitely when you play the Cleveland Cavaliers, when you have Evan Mobley in the paint, and then you got Jarrett Allen. I mean, this is a team that your bigs need to show up if you want to keep it close. And we said it last season in one of our episodes when talking about our centers going up against other teams with premier centers. We need to be able to keep up. We need to be able to match that firepower. And Jalen Duren, he kind of proved to me that he can bang bodies with the league's best. I mean, there's not many more guys that are active than Jarrett Allen. I mean, he does all the little things beautifully. He can expose almost every team. So it was good to see Jalen Duren kind of put up good numbers against a solid center core like the Cavs have.
Yeah, I mean, when you have Jarrett Allen, you have Evan Mobley, and then even just Tristan Thompson. I know he only played 3 minutes, but Tristan Thompson, for what it's worth, in just 3 minutes, he is not just some scrub off the bench. He's actually pretty solid. And I know he only played 3 minutes, but still, that's a point to be made. But like when you have one of the best shot blocking centers in the NBA, Jarrett Allen, who can not only play stellar defense, but he's very effective on the boards. He's very effective offensively. I mean, 19 points, 12 boards, 1 assist, 1 steal, 3 of 5 at the line, 8 of 9 from the field, and 34 minutes played. Like, that's efficiency at its best. And the fact that even with that stat line for him tonight, Jalen Duren was still able to do his thing and contest a lot of those shots that Jarrett Allen had. They weren't easy shots for him. So the fact that Duren was able to stand his own against one of the better centers in the NBA today, that's always a very big positive for me, especially given the fact that, I mean, Duren just turned 20 years old, not a teen anymore, but he's still in that ballpark of being one of the youngest centers in the NBA and still being able to hold his ground against a premier center in the NBA.
And it's one thing, and I'm not hating on the Oklahoma City Thunder, but I believe their center is drawing a blank on his name, but he's not like the big, like he's not like real well known. So it's like, it's one thing for Jalen Duren to like go off against the Oklahoma City Thunder center or another team or the Houston Rockets center, Jabari, whatever his name is. uh, it's like it's one thing to go off against those guys, but when Jalen at a young age is putting up these numbers against a vetted center like Jared Allen, and then a solid young man and Evan Mobley, it's great to see that means more to me than him going off against the Houston Rockets center. That's just my opinion. Before we wrap up tonight's recap, I want to make one quick mention. This guy, he used to destroy us when he was on the Miami Heat. He makes 3-pointers when it's like the worst timing. Max Strus, 22 points tonight, 5 rebounds, 5 assists, 9 of 16 from the field for the Cleveland Cavaliers. This guy always scorches the Pistons. He's like Danilo Gallinari. Like he just like there's certain guys that when, or even Julius Randle a lot, he'll just scorch us. There's those certain group of guys that are like mediocre players overall when they play against any other team. And then they play against the Pistons and they're prime Michael Jordan. It's insane. But obviously 22 points isn't too crazy, but Max Strus, he had a couple 3-pointers in there that were detrimental in closing the game for the Cavs.
Yeah, definitely in that last fourth quarter stretch there, he was the dagger for them. You take away those shots, Pistons win. That's the bottom line. He hit the shots when it mattered to the most. And honestly, the improbable shots that probably shouldn't have gone in just because it's Max Strus. If it was Donovan Mitchell, I would have understood. If it was like even Darius Garland, I'm like cool beans. But when it's Max Strus of all people, he's a great shooter. He's one of the better offensive scorers in the league. But he hit the shots that you didn't think he was going to hit. And out of anybody on the court at that time, you're not going, it's going to be Max Strus hitting those shots. It's going to be Donovan Mitchell or it's going to be Darius Garland. But that's why I'm going to give my hats off. I'm going to give my kudos to him because he was the X factor for the Cavs tonight in their win. I mean, obviously, Garland had a great night. Donovan Mitchell had a great night. Jared Allen had a great night. Evan Mobley was extremely quiet. And Georges Niang had a solid night. And even Okoro. But if it weren't for Max Strus, Cleveland would not have walked out of Little Caesars Arena tonight with a win.
Yeah, every team every solid playoff team needs to have that scorcher coming off whether he's coming off the bench or getting starter minutes. Every playoff ready team needs to have that to help close out those games. And that's exactly what Max Strus is perfect for. He's a great 3-point shooter and very detrimental to the Pistons' loss tonight. Before we wrap up tonight's recap, I want to make sure that there's a lot going on with the Pistons right now. You know, a 16-game losing streak, and we always have a lot to say in all the recaps. But if you're here listening or a subscriber, we would love to also know what your guys' thoughts are on everything. So make sure to comment below and let us know what your thoughts are on the Pistons right now. If you agree to some of the things we say or what you might think the Pistons issues are right now, we would love to know. It just kind of piques our interest. And so comment below if you have any thoughts. That will do it for tonight's recap of the Detroit Pistons versus the Cleveland Cavaliers. Tonight's final score was 110-101 in the Cleveland Cavaliers' favor. Make sure to like and subscribe, and we will see you guys in the next Revved Up recap. Peace.